So I'm mainly here to introduce Fred and Mike. We're going to do a somewhat different, we decided to just take a different approach this year. The online test is still there. Use it for, I think it's great for sort of informational purposes. Go through it just as a good general review. The only thing I'll talk about for, and I'll limit myself about 2 minutes, is one thing we're going to do a little bit differently is this year, the spring checkout, we're going to ask the instructors to spend a little bit more time on the ground doing a review. For people who aren't here, and I forgot to bring the sign-up sheet. Scott, where did we put the?
There's a sign-up sheet going around.
Okay, so please put your names on that. If you weren't there, we're going to ask the instructors to spend a little bit more ground time. There are a bunch of things that the instructor will have sort of a checklist of things we're going to review. One thing we will be checking, and I know Scott sent out the thing about filling out information online, is we will be asking you when was your last BFR, so after the spring checkout, we know you're actually legal to fly. So make sure you fill out that information and know what that date is. And Dave?
No, it's more important to have the plastic certificate.
And to have and to update your certificate so no one's flying with just the paper. So the one thing that we're going to also try to emphasize and try to accomplish on the flight is not just the bump, do we think you're basically safe, is to try to focus on at least one aspect of your flying that we can actually improve. I mean, this was Mike's idea, that we can actually improve in this flight. So the one thing I'd ask each of you to think about, regardless of your experience level, before the spring check, is think about your own flying and talk to the instructor. And this, it's hard for us to just go through your logbook or even Fred's copious notes if you're a student about what you still need work on. But think about your own flying and think about what is one aspect of my flying that could be improved? Is it coordination in thermaling? Is it I'm terrified of landing out? Gee, I haven't done a spin in 5 years and they scare me and I'm not sure what the recovery is. So just give some thought to that and what you would in fact like to accomplish. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Fred and Mike.
This presentation came out of a discussion that actually started a year ago this time when Mike raised some issues with me. At that time, we had made a presentation on safety, and Mike's comment was, so what do you get out of it? And this is paraphrasing it. If I'm doing a poor job, don't blame Mike, blame me. And we ended up having lunch together and talking about it, and then in the springtime we started working on what is it that you can really get out of a presentation that might make a difference in your flying and might make you a safer pilot in the process, or hopefully will. And this is also based on his experience with developing and implementing a training program for his Lancer, right? Yep. And same idea, because the Lancer has a issue with pilot errors, I guess, and they implemented a new program with it to help train pilots to be safer in the Lancer. And some of the ideas and some of the planning for that came over into this presentation, taking a look at how can we help you think about your flying and do a better job. So the title of this talk is called Managing Margins, and that'll become more obvious as time goes on. It's good to start, however, to think a little bit about why we fly. And there's a lot of different reasons we fly. Some days for some reasons, other days for others. And generally, it's a combination. It's challenging. It's a lot of fun. Back down on the ground, we can lie like heck and brag about what we did or didn't do. It's educational. It's certainly something that you can keep up on. You can do a lot of studying. It's a challenge to learn new things. Proficiency is important. This aspect of what Tom was talking about, what is it that you might need help with in the springtime from the instructors or a checkout, improve your proficiency, and certainly enjoyment is part of it. At this point, I'm done, and I'm going to turn it over to Mike.
This is one of my favorite quotes. Too bold and we cause emergencies and have accidents. Too timid, we destroy the utility and let our skills atrophy. Then pretty soon we have to be more timid still. Wang Shuai wrote a really early training manual for flying, but this quote comes from the preface to Bob Buck's book, Weather Flying. We need to do the same kind of balancing of our skills. We need to bring ourselves to a different point. What are we balancing when we're flying? What are the goals? When you drive a car, you're in a car, you try to drive the car in the middle of the lane. It's bad to be off to the left. It's bad to be off to the right. When you're driving, you make a trade-off. When somebody pulls alongside you in a great big rig and starts drifting into your lane, you don't stay in the middle. You kind of cheat your way over a little bit, getting that, you know, it's no longer so good to be right in the middle. You got this other obstruction that's changing the balance. Everything we do in flying has a positive and a negative aspect. You know, we talk about accomplishing our 500K flight versus the downside of having a land out or an accident. We make a conscious chain of, or sometimes an unconscious chain of choices to get to these things. And it's that chain of decisions, that thought process that we're trying to talk about today, and having the balance between the different thoughts that you're making be part of your flying. The different benefits that we might have, and we have the different risks that we might have in our flight. The good sides and the bad sides, and we're trying to find some place that allows us to get to the good things and stay in the middle of the lane. The rest of this is structured around a bunch of different topics that we might see as we fly, and we're going to try to get people involved in thinking about how to find the middle of the lane. As instructors and as pilots, we are not perfect. I guarantee you there are errors in this talk. I didn't put them there on purpose. The challenge we have in our activities in flying is to find those errors and problems and issues, and sometimes we don't know them until a long time into our flying. I mean, I had an incident in my Lancer just last week that, you know, pointed up errors in my flying and makes me think about it. We're trying to develop an educational process, a process where you can think about your flying and make improvements in it yourself, not have an instructor make improvements for you.